We're adding color to our documents to use our paint bucket tool, and we also have our gradient tool. So our paint bucket tool we use for solid color, whereas our gradient tool we use to create gradients. So what exactly is a gradient? A gradient is when we have gradual colors that are joined together. So you can have different amounts of colors. Usually, most cases you'll have 1 to 2, sometimes 3. But it's basically you take whatever amount of colors you would like and you can blend them together. So our gradient tool, you'll see we have the option in our option bar for gradient or classic gradient. So classic gradient, you can create your own gradients with. So by double clicking on, press cancel, on this tab. If you have it set to gradient, this is a newer version of Photoshop where they don't let you create your own the way I just showed you a second ago. So this would be if you want to use a color that's already created. They have some pre-created gradients in here and different depending on what color you want. For this example, for this assignment, we're going to use the classic gradient. Okay, and you'll notice next to, so here we have the option to, again, to pick colors we want. You can actually click on one of these if you wanted to and then change it. Okay, so we have different options in here that you can use. You can go based on the original, which was black to white, and then change it yourself. So these over here are called stops, these little arrows that point up. Okay, if you double click on it, it will open your color picker and you can pick whatever color you want. Okay, so click, and once you know how to use the color picker, this, should be fairly simple for you. Now, I have these are my colors. Now I could take off a gradient by clicking on the stop and dragging it away. Okay, so I click to make a new stop, click and drag the stop away to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm going to add a color. I'm going to add that back. You can save your gradient by clicking new. Okay, but I would suggest you give it a name, maybe custom one, or if you're doing a project, name it the name of the project, or if it's for a company, you can name it company 1. And then you just press new and it will save it in that category. Okay, so for this project, you're going to have 2 different variations of your gradient. So what I would suggest you do is, I'm going to use this as my first one. Do all the first boxes first and then make your second and redo it. So for this, what you're going to do is you're going to make a new layer. Okay, you're going to go to the marquee tool and we're going to make a square. Basically, you're going to drag the box so that it is traced over the gray area. Okay, now why am I using the marquee tool? I'm using the marquee tool to contain the gradient inside the square, because if I don't use the marquee tool and I take my gradient and I click and drag it, which is how the tool is used, it adds color to the whole page. So I'm going to undo. So first we're going to use our marquee tool. Now if you wanted it to be on the whole page, then you just skip this step. So with the marquee tool, I'm going to take my gradient now. As I just showed you, you can click and drag your mouse, and you can actually click and drag your mouse in different directions, and it will actually change the way the gradient looks depending on how you click and drag. Okay, you notice the colors are in different locations when I click and drag. Okay, you will notice at the top here you have 5 different options for the type of gradient. So this, you'll see on this page, on this document, we have linear, we have radial, we have angle, we have reflected, and we have diamond. So this is something I've seen reappear on the certification many times, where you have to identify which gradient is which one. So they'll show you 4 or 5 different examples and you'll have to match to the correct type. So this is linear, which one is radial. So that's one of the main reasons why we're practicing this way. Okay, so if you leave your mouse on top of these symbols, they will say the name of each symbol. So it's basically, the first one's this one, then you have radial, angle, reflected, and diamond. So for this, I'm going to just click and drag across. All right, then you're going to deselect. Okay, I'm going to switch to marquee tool, make my square, go back to the gradient, and the letter shortcut for the gradient is the letter G. Okay, now the G will also pick whatever other tools are in the same section. So if let's say you have your paint bucket selected, you just do Shift G to switch. Okay, so radial. Now radial is kind of like a circular effect like that, and then you do angle. Okay, so this one I like to do a little bit shorter, like that. So I just clicked in the center and I dragged up a little bit so you get this like cool effect. Okay, and it kind of looks almost like a pyramid, if you can envision that this is the point at the top. So that would be good to use if you were creating something with a triangular effect. Okay. Again, this one I'm going to do a little bit of a shorter distance so you can actually see. I'm trying to get that. Okay, I'll leave it like that. So if you don't like how it's coming out, you can press Command Z to undo. Okay, that's what I did. Okay, diamond. Okay, so I'm showing you how you can change the effect of where it's coming and how much it's showing. Okay, so then you would just go, I'm going to do I'll do one more example and then the rest will be up to you to complete. So again, you make your square. Okay, now for this one I'm going to double click. I want to change the gradient, so I'm going to go back into the templated colors. I'm going to find something I like this one. I'm going to add another color here, maybe another color here, like that. I'm going to press new, and that way I have it saved. Okay, you go back to linear, and then you can either do it exactly the same way you did it. You know what, I'll do all of them so you can see. You can do it exactly we just did it by, if you remember how you dragged it. Okay, or you can change up the way it looks just to give it another effect. Okay, shortcut M for marquee, so that's a good way to be a little quicker if you want to be. G. Okay, M. G. And then D. M. G. And then Command D. So I was able to do all those, all these second squares by doing Command M for marquee tool, making the square, Command G for the gradient tool, pick my gradient, make the gradient, Command D to deselect. So if you do those, it'll be a little bit quicker. Okay. Then you go down here to the bottom where it says the questions. How do you change the type of gradient? That's talking about this. How do you change the color stops? That's talking about the change in the pattern here. And when would you use a gradient in the future? So this is something based on your own ideas. How do you think this could be efficient for you? Okay. Now I do want to point out one other thing before I go, and that's if you go to, and I'm going to make a new layer just so that way it doesn't affect this, but if you go to the layer styles, which I'm not sure if I don't think we've spoken about this as of yet, but we may have. Not layer styles, I'm sorry. Layer adjustments, which is here. You'll see the option for gradient. So any of these options here, these three options, will create a brand new layer of their own. Okay, if I click on gradient, you can click a pre-created gradient, so even the one we just created. Okay, and you can also click on it if you want to change the color. Okay, so maybe I want to go here and then pick that one. You can change the angle of it, you can flip it, different options there. So when you press OK, so you'll notice this is its own layer with a layer mask. Okay, so that's that. Okay, and then you just save the file. I'm gonna just double check what we're saving this file as. Give me 1 second. So you should go to your workbook and check the name of the file. I don't see the page. Hold on one second. It should be up here somewhere at the top. Oh, it's over here. Okay, so this is activity 11 underscore name. Okay, so you just go file save as. It should already say activity 11 underscore, and then you just put your name here. And then save it where you want to save it. You should save it in your folder. Format, you're going to change this to JPEG, and then you save and you upload and submit. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video.